All right. So let's talk about the class stuff before we talk about the problem stuff. So we are doing a notebook this year. The notebook is the same basically as last year, except you're not going to have grade sheets. So what that means is you're going to have a notebook with tab dividers in it, something like this. You'll have tabs in there. Each tab is a chapter. You don't have a notes tab and a homework tab and whatever else. This whole tab is chapter 1 or chapter 0. And in that tab, this is the order things need to be in. You probably want to write this down, even if you were in my class last year, because I know that y'all were like babies last year and don't remember stuff. Right? So in the tab, you need to have all your notes for that lesson, that chapter. Then you need to have all your homework for that chapter. Then you need to have any of the quizzes that we take. And then you'll have the test in there. I'll probably put that in there because I'll be grading your notebook and your test at the same time. So I'll probably put the test in there myself. What? Well, it'll be written on the test. I'll write it on the first page in the thing. I'll scribble on your first page of notes in that chapter, your grade of 52. No, your notebook really should be 100 every time. Like really should be 100 every time. Okay? And one of the things that we're doing this year that's different and new that should help you get 100 and also help you stay on top of things and do things is we're using Google Classroom. You probably know that already. Hopefully you've already seen the Google Classroom. Hopefully you already did the things that were due already. If not, don't worry. This is the only time where I'm not going to count off for late or whatever else. We'll talk about that here in a second, right? So for class, you'll have notes to do. Watch the videos and turn those in, right? So on Tuesdays, oftentimes we'll have 2 lessons, and on Thursdays, oftentimes we'll have 1 lesson. On some wonderful, glorious days, on a Tuesday, you'll only have 1 lesson. That'll happen every once in a while, but not most of the time. You have a question already?
It's about our homework.
I'm probably about to answer it, but go ahead and ask it anyway.
There's 2 videos on the first one. How do you show both of the notes? Like send
You send 2 pictures.
But I take pictures.
Yeah, you take 2 pictures and send them both. Your iPad can take more than 1 picture. Well, then you need to use something else.
Take one, send it, and take another.
Your iPad can do it, but if you can't figure that, then you need to use something else. Have your mom use her phone or something else, but you can do it. So, like, take the picture on the iPad and then upload both of them. So upload it from the gallery instead of like taking the picture in the app.
We tried that, but then it said something.
You'll figure it out. I have faith in you. I have faith in your abilities. You got this. You got this. You can do it. You'll find a way to make it happen. Okay. So for the notes and turning in the notes. So well, this is the things that I expect. I expect you to take notes for each video. I expect the notes to be complete. I expect you to write down all the notes. If I take the time to write it on the screen, you sure as heck better write it down in your notes. If you don't, you're not going to get points for it. It's got to be there. If I say something that's important and don't write it down, you should probably write that down too. Your notes need to be neat and in order. You need to have titles for the stuff. When I switch to new slides, you should switch to a new place. Your notes for video shouldn't take up this much space on your paper. You shouldn't just scribble stuff down. You should write down things. Write down things in complete sentences when I do. You can abbreviate it if it makes sense and you're going to remember and I'm going to understand what you abbreviated, right? But write the whole things. Do all the problems with all the steps. If I change colors, you change colors. So if I'm doing intermediate steps with different colors, you should do that too. I'm not going to count off for that, but still a strong recommendation. It's good way. It's still a good strategy. Okay. So you have to take all of the notes and then submit the notes. As far as the quality of the picture being submitted, here's the thing. This is going to apply more in homework than it is in notes. And I'll explain more detail on that in a minute. But it needs to be good enough that I can kind of make out what's happening. Like, if all you have is a really cheap Android phone or a crappy laptop camera or whatever else, and I can still pretty much make out what's happening more or less. It's a little blurry, but I can like figure it out more or less. That's fine. That's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not actually grading answers, whatever else. All that stuff. I'll explain that on the homework stuff in a minute. We do that in class. We'll do that part just like we always have done. Okay. So as long as it's good enough, it's fine. Right. So homework. This is my expectation on homework. So, you do the notes. Do the notes first, please. Don't try to do the homework before you watch the video. That's just silliness. There's no reason. You have to do them both. You're submitting both now. You may as well do it in the right order. And don't just YOLO the homework. Just do it the right order. You'll be happy you did. Right? So for the homework, I expect you to attempt every single problem. Now, keep in mind where the homework falls in the order of events here, right? So you'll have watched the video, you'll have one exposure, unless it's something you're reviewing or whatever that you've seen before, but theoretically you'll have one exposure to the thing and that's it. And then you're expected to attempt some problems on it. So you probably are going to have some questions, right? There's probably going to be some places you get stuck. There's probably going to be some places that are confusing. There's probably going to be some mistakes made. All of that is okay. You're not graded on your homework based on your answers. You're based on whether you attempted all the things. The whole point of the homework problems are to try out the material and see where you are confused and where things are getting mixed up or whatever else. So you need to have something tried on every single problem. It can be just a little bit of it if you're like, that's as far as I get. Like if it's a word problem, write down the formula that you think is correct. You might solve that, whatever, but at least do that much. Put a question mark on it or whatever, and then do the things. But don't leave it blank. Don't put IDK. Don't put a big old fat question mark. Try something. Okay? If you're like, can get a step done on a problem, that's fine. If you can write down the problem and I think I do this. I'm crying in my pillow right now. This is the best I got in this problem. That's fine, right? What I'm looking for is math that looks like it kind of sort of maybe might belong in that problem. It might be wrong, and that's okay. That's part of the point of the homework, is to figure out where we're broken so we can figure out what we need to fix, right? Make sense? And so that's what I'm grading. I am grading, it is still a completion grade, but it's not like last year where it's like you turn in something with all the problems on the page, you get 100 for it. You have to do something on every problem. It might be wrong, it might be just like a little bit, you might write it and be like, I'm confused. You might do half of it, put a question mark, have a little tear stain next to the problem, and that's good enough. That's fine. You'll get credit for that. But if you attempt it, it lets you engage with the material, and it might, even if you do something that's kind of wrong, that might help me understand, okay, this is where they're confused, right? And so that's the idea of some of that. So you submit that. You also might have noticed that the due dates for the homework and the notes stuff is the day before class. That was not a mistake, that was intentional. That is so that you don't do your problems at 9 o'clock in the morning on the day of class. You don't have math 2 days a week. You're in your high school math. You do not have math 2 days a week. You have math 4 or 5 days a week. We have 2 hours of in-person class every week. You should almost certainly be spending 2 hours outside of class, at least, on your math during the week. And you shouldn't try to squeeze that all into one day. That is not a good idea. So I made all the due dates the day before. That way you have to do those sooner. Now today, this stuff, if you haven't turned it in, don't stress, it's fine. Get it turned in ASAP. If you were like, I was confused, I didn't know what to do, all the things, get something turned in today, you'll get 100 for it. I don't care if it's just like half done, whatever, today. But after today, starting on Thursday, if you turn in stuff late, it's automatically minus 10 points. Plus whatever points you miss for like not doing work or whatever else. Okay, so I am going to count off for late this year. And late is not after class day, it's after the day before class day. Does that make sense? The assignments are generally not super long still. We're not in Algebra 2 yet, we're not in pre-cal yet. Typically, I mean, there's some problems, but it's doable. So it's an easily accomplished thing. I know your lives are starting to become busier, and your family's lives are probably even busier than your own personal one. And you're in school still. You got this. You can do it. I have faith in you. It's going to be great. Okay, so you turn things in, we'll come to class, all those things. So any questions about class before we get into the math part? Any of the class stuffs?
I noticed, I was looking at the future assignments, and I noticed it said due Wednesday at 11:59, so you're saying it's like a specific time you have to be done?
So 11:59 means it needs to be done, that's PM,
Oh, okay. I thought
not AM. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah, so before the day is over.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's all that means. I didn't set up a different time. I'd recommend doing it before like midnight, you know, just for, you know, your own health and sanity. But, you know, if you turn it in at 11:58 on Wednesday, it will not be late. So, but if you turn it in at 12:01, it'll be late. So, you know, if you're pushing, yeah, it'll be late. If you're pushing your life that hard, probably need to kind of analyze some things, because probably there's something a little bit out of balance going on there. Now would be a good time to start to figure it out now while you still have kid energy and all the things. Because if you get to my age before you figure some of those things out, it's just harder and harder. True facts. Makes sense? Any other questions about class stuff? The overall classy things. Okay. All right, let's start getting into where we started. Are we done with class at 2? We are done with class at 2. Now that you have a watch, you can keep up with things. Yeah, so we started with chapter 0, lesson 2. We skipped the 1 lesson because I don't like it in Algebra 1. I feel like it's obnoxious in Algebra 1. We just deal with it. We use the problem solving strategy as we go, and we'll use it when we hit word problems. But I don't give you a formal lesson on it. We do that in pre-cal. No, I keep doing that all day today. All day today I've been doing that, no, in pre-algebra, which I'm not even teaching this year. Yes. Because now I'm teaching electronics, which is going to be awesome. Yeah? Did you have some other things at that time?
My mom, I asked her if I could share notes with you.
Too much, probably.
Yes.
Said no.
Is that tomorrow?
First day is tomorrow. You could still, you will get the beginnings of your kit tomorrow. You don't get, your kit for most of the time, especially in beginning electronics, stays here. And then there'll be a few times when you take it home. And at the end of the year, it's yours to keep forever and ever. It's going to be fun. Okay, so let's do math. All right, let's see. What problems did we assign on these? Was it 2 through 12? Yeah. All right, so from page P10, number 2 is rationals. Number 4 was naturals, wholes, integers, and rationals. All of these would also have, if you put like real numbers on them, that's also true. They're all real numbers as well. But okay, so number 6 is naturals, wholes, integers, and rationals.
I just put natural. Would that still work?
No, because you have to list all of them, and we can look at that. If it's one of the smaller sets in the amoeba, then it's also the bigger sets in the amoeba. But we can hit some more of that as well.
I thought it was without
Just the smallest, what is the smallest one? Yeah. 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 Yeah, it says set or sets, right? So it's all of them, right? So number 8 is naturals, wholes, integers, and rationals. Number 10 is rationals. And number 12 is integers and rationals. What questions do we have on those? Number 4? Yeah, sure. Number 4 is tricksy, right? Number 4 is kind of sneaky. Where's my there? Number 4, so this is page P something, 10. Anybody make the mistake of doing page 10 instead of page P10? Usually I get somebody to make that mistake in the year, but. And number 4. And it is 56 sevenths. All right, so what does this belong to? Well, it's definitely rationals, right? It can be written as a fraction. That's easy peasy because it's literally written as a fraction. So is there anything we notice about those two numbers? This is where this problem gets a little tricksy. What are 56 and 7? Do they relate in any way? Yeah, how do they relate? You don't have to use the right words, just something that'll get us there. Oh, I thought you were trying to come up with a word, but you're doing times tables in your head, aren't you? Is that what you're doing? Oh no, what are you doing? They do relate. Yeah, doing times tables in your head. Yeah, so 7 times 8 is 56. So they can be reduced by 7, right? We can divide this by 7 and divide that by 7. You could also just take your handy dandy calculator and do 56 divided by 7, enter. Either way, you'll get 8. So this equals 8. So this is the same as 8. Now 8 is not just a rational number. What else does it fit in? Natural number. It's a natural number. It's a whole number. It's an integer. It's a rational number. Yeah, so since we can reduce that down to a natural number, it's all the things.
It's not irrational.
That's true. It is not irrational. Yeah, it's also a real number. They're all real numbers. Y'all haven't learned about anything that's not a real number. There is a whole, we got this whole big old set of real numbers over here, and then there's this whole other set that you haven't learned about yet.
Imaginary.
Yeah, well, complex technically, but imaginary is a part of complex numbers. Yeah, y'all haven't learned about that. You will, but not today. Any other questions on this lesson? Ten. Number 10 is negative 54/19. So, can we reduce negative 54/19? So I'm gonna push you to do something. So at the beginning, this is not the beginning of pre-algebra. This is the beginning of algebra 1. So pull out your calculator. Let's practice using the tool that you have. Let's not lose our facts, right? Don't be punching 5 times 5 on the calculator. You know 5 times 5 is 25, right? Don't be pushing 37 times 0 on the calculator. You know 37 times 0 is 0. So don't lose your brain by pulling out the tool. But let's practice our tool, right? So punch 54 divided by 19 and push enter. Yeah, so it's going to give you either negative 0 point, or your calculator might give you just this again, depending on how where your settings. It might just give you that same thing again, right? Yeah, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that means that it is not, no, it's not irrational. Because it's literally written as a fraction, right? So it, excuse me, It can be written as a fraction, so it is rational, not irrational. Right? So it's rational. It's not an integer. It is negative, and I don't know whether this is what you were thinking or not, but that is a common mistake actually in this place. Is we think about and I don't remember if I make a big deal about it in the Algebra 1 video or not, but when we learn about integers, we think, okay, negatives are integers. But integers are specifically negative whole numbers, right? Not all negatives, but negative whole numbers. So it has to be, this part would have to be a whole number for it to be an integer. Okay. So that's why it's not an integer. Does that make sense? Good. It's not irrational. What's an example of an irrational number that's not written on that page? So all we have to do is do the square root and then something that's not a perfect square. So what's something that's not a perfect square? 7. Great, you did it.
So not number.
What about, no, it is a number. It's just
I'm saying an odd number.
not always, because like if I do that, that's natural, whole, integer, rational, real, right? Because that's equals 5, right? What about the square root of 3, right? So take your calculator and punch in the square root of 7, and what do you get? 2 point. So if you push the square root of something and you get a bunch of nastiness, it's irrational, right? If you punch in the square root of 144, what do you get? 12. Right? You get straight up 12, right? If you punch in the square root of 1024, what do you get? 32. 32 times 32 is 1024. You did. Yeah. So if you get, bam, whole number answer, then it's not irrational. Okay, any other questions from this lesson? What? This lesson is stupid? Is that what you're saying? So stupid. You hate it.
I said so.
If that lesson is stupid, just wait till you get to geometry next year. You're going to be like crying into your pillow. Geometry is awesome. It's a great class. But it is not like this class.
Not good with shapes.
Well, that's 8th grade math. Geometry is like the only real math class in high school. Like pretty much, yeah. It's the only, well, pre-cal has its moments of being a real math class, but basically geometry is the only actual math class in high school. All right, let's do lesson 3 of chapter 0. All right, let's see. What do we do, 2 through 22?
2 through 18.
What? I didn't give y'all any word problems. What's wrong with me? Well, pass me was dumb. Oh well. Y'all need to be doing word problems, bros. They're good for you. Good for your brain. All right, number 2, negative 8. Number 4 is negative 123. Number 6 is negative 15. Number 8 is negative 60. Number 10 is 90. Number 12 is negative 180. Number 14 is negative 176. Number 16 is 420. And number 18 is negative 100. What questions do we have on those problems? You didn't do 16? Oh no, why not? Because you accidentally missed it?
Okay, so.
Go ahead, whatever excuses you're about to make, go ahead, make them.
No, on the homework, it said like P something. I didn't know what that meant.
That's actually page P12.
And then it did, and then it did like 2 through 12. I thought that was 2 minus 12. So I was like,
You should have asked.
10.
That would have been a good idea. Should have like sent me an email and be like, what does this mean? And then I would have been like, oh, it's no big deal. And then you would have been like, yeah, I got this. But, you know, that didn't happen. And, you know, we live and learn possibly. If not, then, you know, we never grow up, which would be a sad state of being. So, what questions do we have on this lesson? P12. All right, let's do some word problems because it's good for us. Let's do number 20 together, more or less. P12.
Get it right. Word problems.
Yeah, a dolphin swimming 24 feet below the ocean surface, dives 18 feet straight down. How many feet below the ocean surface is the dolphin at now? So here is good advice, your first good advice of the year. This advice will help you in math class, it will help you in science class, and a bunch of other stuff. If you are hitting a word problem, and the word problem describes a picture but doesn't give you a picture to go along with it, draw a picture. So that's what we're going to do first. So a dolphin swimming 24 feet below the ocean surface. So we've got ocean surface up here, and we've got a little dolphin. There he is. So cute. He's happy. Right? Well, it's a dolphin. It's okay. The dolphin wants to be the dolphin identifies as a beta fish. Okay. So, it says that the dolphin is 24 feet below the surface.
42.
And then it says he dives 18 feet straight down. 18 feet straight down. And then it asks how many feet below the ocean surface is the dolphin now? So what would we do?
We just add
18 to 24. We get 42 feet. See how easy that was because we drew a picture? It's like, okay, I get it. Do it.
Or you could just like,
Do the math. You could just read and YOLO in your brain, but sometimes your brain doesn't work right.
just read and then put it into the calculator.
Or spend so much time drawing a picture.
And see, here's the deal, kids. We're in Algebra 1. Algebra 1 is the beginning of the end. Algebra 1 is the beginning of the end game for your high school math. It's like the very beginning of the end game. And these problems are not going to, this is like 5th grade math, yeah? This is like baby stuff, yeah? This is how all word problems up until this point pretty much have looked. Where you have a little thing, some sort of scenarios happening, you do one thing. I got to figure out, do I multiply, do I subtract, do I divide, do I add? It's one of those. You got 25% of guessing right and seeing what happens, right? That's what happens. Now, here pretty soon, you're going to get word problems where you end up having to write something like this. It is pretty easy once we stair-step our way there. It's not that bad. But you're going to have stuff like this, and then you have to figure out what to stick in for those letters, and you have to do all this other stuff. That's not just add, multiply, whatever else. So using strategies like drawing a picture to understand what's happening is good habits. So start building healthy habits now, and then later in geometry, algebra 2, and pre-cal, it's going to be easier. Because if you build bad habits now, it's hard to break bad habits. I was just talking to my sons about that just the other day. If you build bad habits now in high school, then when you later get to be 40 years old, you're liable to still be struggling with those bad habits. Ask me how I know that.
use your voice.
Right? So I'm telling you, don't do like I did and ignore the good advice my mommy gave me. Start building good habits now. So this is a good habit to build. Let's do another word problem. Okay. Number 22, let's do that one. Okay. Number 22, Emilio. I love this textbook. It's great. You know, in old school math textbooks, well, other than Saxon is liable to be Mary the gnome. Drives me crazy in Saxon. I don't care about doing a problem out in gnomes. I love fantasy literature. I'm a great, a big sci-fi fantasy fan, whatever else. But I don't want to do math problems about gnomes. Right? It was stupid. Anyway, but this text, you know, in a lot of old school math textbooks, it was Bob, Fred, George, Sally, Jane. These books, it's just got like all kinds of ethnic names. Wonderful, I love it, it's great. Emilio earns $11 per hour. He works 14 hours a week. His employer withdraws $32 from his paycheck for taxes. If he is paid weekly, what is the amount of his final of his paycheck? Okay, wait a minute now. We just no, stop. Put that down. And here, this is good. I know. Don't make those bad habits. Don't do it. Don't read a word problem and pick up your calculator. Don't pick up your calculator until you wrote something down. Write something down first. Because this problem right here, you don't do one thing. You do two things. And so let's write down what we do first. Okay? One of them is going to be multiply. You're correct. So Emilio earns $11 per hour. He works 14 hours a week. So what would you do with those numbers? 11 times 14, okay? So we're going to do 11 times 14, $11 an hour times 14. Look at this pretty beautiful high school level writing, right? This times that. Isn't that great? Parentheses times parentheses and multiplication? Yeah. Right? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, no big dealio, right? And his employer withholds $32 for taxes. So minus the $32 for taxes. So now that we wrote something down, now we can punch it in our calculator. That's fine. What's 11 times 14?
154.
I heard 3 different numbers. 11 times 14 is what number?
154.
Okay. That sounds more accurate. And then don't put this in your calculator. What is 154 minus 32? Just look at it and tell me what it is. That's easy math. Do the easy math with your brain. Don't lose your brain because of the tool. Tools are great. You know, there's plenty of like old school math teachers and parents or whatever else like calculators are the devil. They're not the devil. They're great. But if you let them be, they will be the devil to you. If you let them be. Calculators will rot your brain and make you think that fractions are ugly and whatever else. Don't lose your brain because of the tool, but use the tool. And here's the deal. You ready? Pay close attention. So 154 minus 32 is 122. That's 5 minus 3 is 2, and that 4 minus 2 is 2, right? So a great idea is do it in your head, 122, and then sanity check yourself on the calculator. Then you did it twice, and you're all great and old and amazing. Then you make hundreds instead of 95s. It's great. It's 90, because 98 is just an annoying grade to make on a test. Just so annoying. And 99 is worse. It's like, oh my gosh.
99.2.
I spelled something wrong.
Oh, terrible, right? And using tricks like that is the ways you shift your 98s to 100s,
Don't
right?
forget to write the
Oh, you're right. Look at that mistake. Way to go. Word problems have units. Don't forget to write the units. Good job. Way to go. Yeah, that's right. Corbin got 100. All you other losers with your 99s. Oh my gosh. Okay, something. All right, let's take a quiz. How's that sound? Great? Let's do it. Okay, so your quiz is going to be on page P12.
That's that.
It should be the page you're already on. You should have already been on page P12. I can't answer that. That I don't know. Okay, so let's make something clear because I know you hooligans. When you finish your quiz, after showing your work and doing your work and all the amazing things that we know you're going to do, right? Writing down the problem and all that stuff. After you do that and you give me your quiz, you're going to keep your mouth shut, right? Right?
Yeah, right.
And you're not going to pull out a hacky sack and start throwing it at your neighbor or poking them with a pencil. If you need to, just put your head down on your table and chill for a few minutes.
Don't fall asleep.
Because here's the deal. We are giving everyone as much time as they need to do the quiz. Oftentimes, the first person that's done on a quiz does the worst. Not always. All I'm saying is you take whatever time you need, and we give everyone else the courtesy of the time that they need. Deal? Okay. Page P12, and we're going to do, let's see, numbers 1 and 3 and 11 and 17, and why not throw a word problem in there, because I'm nice. 21. This might be the longest quiz y'all ever take.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have plenty of time?